Stop waiting for permission. How Black women are turning survival into strategy and building legacies. That last welcome to Soft Girl era, the sacred space where strong Black women unlearn survival, rediscover softness, and reclaim the joy, rest, and freedom they deserve. I'm your host, LeAnne Dolce, pronounced Dole, like sweet softness whispered in French. And today we're diving deep into a conversation that will challenge everything you thought you knew about circumstances, systems, and what it really means to build legacy. I recently had the honor of sitting down with Cozena Benjamin, a third generation entrepreneur, commercial real estate developer, former salon owner, mother of seven, and grandmother who has spent their life turning what society calls limitations into launch pads. Cozena's work with women transitioning from prison, women on welfare, and youth isn't charity, it's strategy for community transformation. They are living proof that the stories we tell ourselves about who we are and what we deserve can either trap us or transform us. And what they shared with me, what they've lived and learned, is going to shake you awake in the best way possible. Because here's the truth we're unpacking, today. Your circumstances never define your ceiling. Systems and support can be used as stepping stones, not shackles. And ownership of skills, businesses, and mindset is the path to freedom and legacy for Black women. Let's start here. You know that feeling when life hands you a script you didn't audition for? Teenage mom, high school dropout, welfare recipient, Section 8 housing society looks at that resume and writes you off before you even get started. But Cozena taught me something that I want you to hear loud and clear. Being handed that script doesn't mean you have to perform it the way they expect. See, Cozena grew up with a philosophy passed down through generations. God bless the child that has his own. Gaming skills pays the bills. Each one teach one. These weren't just sayings, they were survival blueprints. And they didn't just survive, they built. Salon owner, real estate developer, community advocate, 7 children raised, a legacy planted. And here's where it gets real. They didn't do it by pretending the systems didn't exist. They used them. Welfare wasn't a cage, it was a bridge. Section 8 wasn't shame, it was strategy. They looked at every resource available and asked one question: how can I use this to move toward ownership, not just survival? That's the first thing I need you to take with you today. You can turn any circumstance into a launch pad if you choose to build, not break. Being a teenage mom, a high school dropout, a recipient of government assistance, none of that makes you a statistic. It can make you a strategist. The difference is whether you use the systems to move toward your goals instead of staying stuck in them. Now, let's talk about what that actually looks like in real life. Because theory is cute, but execution is everything. There's a group of Black millennial women who were laid off from traditional jobs, pushed out by bias, burnout, or just bad timing. And instead of scrambling to update their resumes and beg for another seat at somebody else's table, they made a different choice. They decided to build software and tech businesses. They learned high value skills, software development, digital products, tech enabled services, and they created scalable income streams that didn't depend on corporate hiring cycles or someone else's approval. These women weren't tech geniuses from the start. They weren't born into privilege or handed venture capital checks. They were forced out of the workforce, left with bills to pay and families to feed, and they had to make a decision. Do I keep applying to jobs that don't want me, or do I build something that can't fire me? They chose to build. They leveraged community based financial resources, community development financial institutions, grants for minority women, pitch competitions targeted at underserved entrepreneurs. They opened separate business accounts. They tracked revenue and expenses. They started thinking like companies, not just workers. And you know what happened? They built sustainable businesses that sell even when they're not on the clock, semi passive revenue, scalable income, long term legacies. They showed the world that being pushed out of the system can be the doorway to ownership, not the end of the road. When Black women learn high income skills and treat their work like a business, they build wealth, not just wages. And that brings me to the second thing you need to remember: learn skills, own something, and treat yourself like a business from day one. Skill building, entrepreneurship, and financial discipline are how Black women move from survival to ownership and legacy. But here's where we need to pause and get honest. Because I know some of you are tired. You've been grinding so hard for so long that the idea of learning one more thing, building one more thing feels like too much. And I get it. I see you. That's why this next part matters so much. There's a conversation happening among Black women entrepreneurs right now, led by voices like Centrell Jones, about softness as strategy, about rest, emotional wellness, and community as tools to build sustainable businesses and generational wealth. For years, Black women have been rewarded for work ethic, but not for wellness. We've been told that success requires self sacrifice, that strength means never asking for help, that rest is something you earn after you've already burned out. But what if softness and support are actually assets in strategy, leadership, and wealth building? What if boundaries, rest, and emotional wellness aren't luxuries, they're necessities? What if the reason so many of us are exhausted isn't because we're not strong enough, but because we've been carrying too much alone for too long? These women built support ecosystems: mentors, peer networks, community advisors, trusted friends. They shared knowledge, resource, and emotional load. They treated emotional wellness and sustainable pace as part of the business model, not something separate. And their businesses didn't just survive, they thrived. Because when founders have emotional bandwidth and support, they create stronger, more resilient companies. This is where the soft girl era and the entrepreneurial grind meet. You don't have to choose between building a legacy and protecting your peace. You can do both. You should do both. Because a business built on burnout is a business built on borrowed time. Now let's get practical, because I know some of you are sitting there thinking, okay, this sounds good, but how do I actually do this? There's a movement of Black women who are building income beyond the 9 to 5, and they're doing it by thinking like companies. They're creating 2 year plans. They're building profit and loss statements. They're using tax benefits strategically. They're leveraging partnerships and networks to move faster and build stronger businesses. They're developing digital products and services that can sell without constant active labor, increasing freedom and flexibility. These women separated their personal and business finances. They opened business bank accounts. They started tracking revenue and expenses. They planned for taxes and growth. They stopped seeing themselves as side hustlers and started seeing themselves as business owners. And that shift in identity, that shift in how they saw themselves, changed everything. Because when you treat yourself like a business, you start making decisions like a business. You invest in yourself, you protect your assets, you plan for the future, you build something that can grow, be passed down, or sold. You create options, you create freedom, you create legacy. And here's the thing that Cozena made so clear in our conversation: this isn't just about you, it's about the women and youth who are watching you. It's about the community that needs you to succeed so they can see what's possible. That's the third thing you need to take with you today. Each one teach one. The more you uplift others, the more you expand your own impact. Working with women transitioning from prison, women on welfare, and youth isn't charity, it's strategy for community transformation. When you help those who help themselves, you multiply your own influence while breaking generational patterns in your community. Cozena's work with women coming out of the system, with women on welfare, with young people trying to find their way, that's not separate from their business success. It's part of it because when you lift as you climb, you create a network of support, accountability, and opportunity that benefits everyone. And let's be real, when you teach someone else what you've learned, you solidify that knowledge for yourself. When you share your story, you give someone else permission to write their own. When you open doors, you create pathways that didn't exist before. So here's what I need you to do after you finish listening to this. First, audit your situation and identify every system you can use as leverage, whether it's government assistance, corporate benefits, community programs, or tax codes. Ask yourself, how can I use this to move toward ownership, not just survival? Stop seeing systems as traps and start seeing them as tools. Second, commit to learning one income producing skill and one business habit immediately. Maybe that skill is software, digital marketing, real estate, beauty services, or another trade. Maybe that habit is opening a business bank account, tracking revenue and expenses separately, or creating a simple 2 year plan and profit and loss statement. Pick one skill, pick one habit. Start today. Third, adopt and each one teach one mindset. Once you learn something that helps you move forward, share it with at least one other Black woman or youth, especially those coming out of prison, on welfare, or starting over, so the community rises together. Because here's what Cozena's story and the stories of all these women we've talked about today prove beyond a shadow of a doubt: your story is not over. Your circumstances are not your ceiling. Your past is not your prison. You are not too old, too tired, too broke, too late, or too anything to build something that matters. You are not defined by what happened to you. You are defined by what you choose to do. To next. And I know some of you are sitting there thinking, but LeAnne, you don't understand. I'm exhausted. I've been strong for so long. I don't know if I have it in me to start something new. And to you, I say this: softness is not weakness, rest is not failure, asking for help is not defeat. You don't have to do this alone. You don't have to carry the cape anymore. You can build a legacy and protect your peace. You can be soft and still be strategic. You can rest and still be rising. This is your soft girl era. This is your time to unlearn survival and learn ownership. This is your time to stop grinding yourself into the ground and start building something that lasts. This is your time to use every system, every skill, every ounce of support available to you, not to just get by, but to get free. Cozena Benjamin showed us that circumstances are just the starting line, not the finish line. They showed us that when you choose to build instead of break, when you learn skills and own something, when you lift as you climb, you don't just change your life. You change your family, you change your community, you change the world. So here's my challenge to you today: stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop waiting for someone to validate your dream or approve your plan. The world doesn't owe you an invitation. You don't need a degree, a cosigner, or a committee to tell you that you're worthy of building something that matters. What are you going to build? What system are you going to use as a stepping stone? What skill are you going to learn? Who are you going to teach? How are you going to turn your survival story into a legacy story? Because the world is waiting for you. Your community is waiting for you. Your future self is waiting for you. And you don't have to wait until you're ready. You don't have to wait until you're perfect. You don't have to wait until you have it all figured out. You just have to start. You just have to choose. You just have to build. Remember, God bless the child that has his own. Gaming skills pays the bills. Each one teach one. Now go build something beautiful. Go rest when you need to. Go ask for help when you need it. Go teach someone else. what you've learned. Go use every tool, every system, every skill at your disposal. Your soft girl era starts now.